Hello and welcome to another episode of The Journey with Ammar Sheikh, where we unfold stories of achievers, believers, and change makers. Every person's life is a journey, and there is a story behind it. Today, we unfold the stories which are never told, sometimes they are told, keeping it raw, real, and inspiring. Today on The Journey, we sit down with a young leader whose story is built on service, discipline, and unshakable commitment to the community. Born in Pakistan and raised in Canada, Adil Khalqi arrived here with his family in the year 2000. From a very young age, he carried a clear purpose, not just to succeed, but to give back. By the age of 10, Adil had already begun volunteering, planting the seeds of a life dedicated to public service. Since making Milton his home in 2012, Adil quickly recognized what makes the community special, and more importantly, how deeply he wanted to serve the community. Over the years, he has done thousands of volunteer working hours with organizations such as Matt Halton, Crime Stoppers, and local food banks and whatnot. After graduating from Milton District High School, Adil pursued his calling through higher education at Mohawk College, completing his police foundations and advanced police studies. That journey led him into policing, a profession that demands courage, integrity, and responsibility. Today, Adil proudly serves as a police officer with the Brantford Police Services, committed to protect the communities and in strengthening the public trust. But Adil's service didn't stop there. In 2022, at the age of 22, he made history. Elected as town councillor for Ward 3 in Milton, becoming the youngest councillor elected in the town's history. On council, Adil brings a perspective rooted to integrity, accountability, and results-driven governance, ensuring that the voices of residents are not just heard, but reflected in this decision-making. Balancing the roles of police officer and elected official as a young councillor of the town, Adil stands as a powerful example of what possible becomes when purpose meets action. His hope is simple yet profound: to inspire young people to step into leadership, serve their communities, and realize that age is never a limitation when commitment and character lead the way. This is the journey of Adil. Let's begin talk about a leader, a young leader. So I'll start with the quotation. Says, leadership is not defined by age, title, or authority. Is defined by the courage to serve when no one is watching. This truly is an example of Mr. Adil. Let me please welcome Mr. Adil Khalqi on the show. Hello and welcome, Adil. Thank you for taking time out and joining me on the show.
Well, thank you, Ammar, for having me here, and thank you for that lovely introduction as well. Pleasure to have a great conversation with you this evening.
Absolutely, sir. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and I hope you're feeling okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Adil. I've already given you a brief about the format of the show. This is my contribution to my young leaders and the leaders in general of the society, the contributors of the society, where we unfold their journey of life, how they began all the things they have been doing, the great work they have been contributing to the society. And this is a small contribution from my end. So let's begin asking about where are you from, what was your childhood like, and what were your early days like?
Absolutely, that's a great question, So I'm currently 26 years old, and I'm going to come back to that age factor there because it's something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
But long story short, I was born in Lahore, Pakistan back in 1999, and shortly after I was born, about 11 months after, I moved to Toronto, Canada, which is the community I lived in for about 12 years. And then in 2012, my family and I, we moved over to the town of Milton, and that's where I've been living ever since. And my childhood was a very unique one. I've had experiences both in my personal life and later in my school years and professional life later on that required me to become a bit more independent and required me to become, more mature at a younger age than most individuals that are that young have to do. With that came a great sense of purpose and responsibility for wanting to give back to the community. And throughout my years going older, through the time I had in Toronto and in Milton, I found that calling that I had in life was to use whatever skills and ability I have to give back to the community.
Excellent. No, this is such inspiring thing to hear from a young leader like yourself, having a clear purpose in life. Tell us more about your childhood. How were you as a child?
Yeah, so what I recall is, obviously in Toronto, I lived in a community called Thorncliffe Park, which is a very rich and diverse community that's intensely populated even today, and met a lot of good friends there and, people who were strong mentors as well. Lots of good teachers in my elementary school years there too. I remember being in my middle school and being things like, the student council president, getting involved in extracurricular activities there as well. And, hanging out with my friends we had lots of high density there, so lots of tall buildings. We used to have playgrounds in the back there and playing, things like tag, hide and seek, cops and robbers, those type of things, like every child usually does when they're growing up. But it was good. I came here with my father and my mother, and my mother unfortunately got ill when I was growing up, and around 10 years old, she passed away from cancer. So it was just my dad and I, and that's going back to the fact that I had to grow up a bit faster than most kids do. I think that played a huge role in shaping that, right? Because it was just me and my dad, and then we had a lot of baggage to carry as a result of that. So there was definitely lots of turning points and good moments as well, but sad moments as well too that have been experienced in my childhood.
I'm sorry to hear that about your mother. It's really, really tough to go through in your early days. And alhamdulillah, the way you have carried yourself, this is remarkable, sir. And yeah. So what has been your early challenge in terms of education, or just correct me, you mentioned about playing the games called Cop and Robbers. So I think you really took that seriously. We'll talk about your policing journey in a later half. Sure. But yeah, what really was your challenging moment back in the days when you thought, okay, this is where I struggle and I need to overcome that?
Yeah, so it goes back to, around that, and you mentioned it in the introduction, 10 years old. When I was around 10, and I still remember it today, that's when, I decided to, get involved in the community. Thorncliffe Park in Toronto was a community that had something going on all the time. Like we had a local park in our neighborhood that was a very larger park in the community there, and Thorncliffe Park was surrounded by that one big park. And in there were many community events and bazaars and activities that took place on a weekly basis, and I think they still do there. There was a really strong neighborhood association there as well that still exists today that, puts activities and different events on for members of the community. So I recall back when I was 10 going to the park like any kid does. And this particular date, I remember there being a bazaar and different vendors and all of that. And it just so happened that in 2010, it happened to be the municipal election taking place during that time. And I came across one of the vendors that happened to be at the park, and his name is John Burnside. He was running for Toronto City Council at the time. And he was there with his team handing out popsicles, freezies, and other goods to kids, but then also handing out some literature and stuff for the older adults for voting purposes. I don't know what it was, but that fascinated me a lot, and the whole team was very approachable. And for some reason, I was very attracted to that and, wanted to be part of that. And I decided to sign up as a volunteer with the John Burnside campaign at that time. And I remember at 10, knocking on doors for his municipal campaign, making phone calls, going out to different events, things like that. And John has become a huge mentor of mine as well. And we're still in touch today. He's still a city councillor in Toronto today as well. And, it's one of those things where that's what sparked my interest in volunteering, but also interest in politics as well. And beyond politics, public service, giving back to the community, being around people, helping people find solutions to problems, and not letting a tough challenge or a barrier stand in the way of what a solution or a positive outcome can be. And John's campaign really helped shape that value and that belief in who I was as a person, and that sense of public service became a huge part of my identity at that tender age of 10 years old. And that just blew and expanded into something much bigger as the years went on.
Okay, this is excellent. From the age of 10 and volunteering and having a clear purpose, this is really unheard of. Kudos, my friend. Adil, so what was the basic mindset? I know that's a very tender age of 10 and you really don't have a clear direction, but you could have the right sense of belongingness. Okay, these are my people, I need to give back in whatever capacity I can. But what was the mindset behind maybe your father's contribution to that as well? What was the early days mindset you had? Okay, this is what are my studies, goals for studies, this is what I'm going to do as a volunteer, this is what I play with my friends, and this is how I, as a son, I am contributing to my family. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really good question too. And, one thing I want to emphasize here is that both my mother and my father have been always very supportive. My mother, in the short time that I did know her when I was growing up, I recall her being very supportive and protective and making sure that the values of, honesty, accountability, all those things were instilled in me at the young age as I was growing up. But after her death, my father took on a unique role of being both the mother and the father, so to speak, right? And one thing I've always admired about my father, and something to this day that he still, treats me in the way he does as a parent, is that he has always believed in, supporting what I want to do. In the sense that he's given me an example of what the right thing to do is versus what the wrong thing to do is, but he's never forced me to, decide what I want to do as a career. He's never forced me to, go to a particular educational pathway. He's never forced me to, hang out with certain types of people or not, but he's instilled the values of what his expectations are as a parent to make sure that I don't do these key things that could lead me down the wrong path, but empower me to make my own decisions, make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, but do things that are positive in nature. And going back to the volunteering component, a big part after my mom died was, finding out what my identity was, and where do I feel that sense of belonging. Because my father had to work, he still had to go. There was many times where I was home alone or was being looked after by our neighbor I had some great neighbors at the time. We lived in an apartment building back in Toronto, and we had, lots of support from people. But again, it was about what I needed to do to make sure that I found that sense of belonging. And I can speak to the fact that, young people have, at that age too, 10, 11, 12, are at a point where they could very easily end up going down the wrong path, right? Fortunately, I had really good friends, really good older adults and mentors around me. And I found that sense of belonging through volunteer work, through being in the community, seeing people smile, seeing people, be rewarded when somebody came and lended a helping hand, whether it was cleaning desks after a class in school to help the teacher out, to being at the neighborhood event in the park and helping fold tables or whatever it may be. That satisfaction coming from the fact that, hey, somebody was appreciating that work that was happening gave me that sense of belonging, and that turned into, fueling my desire to be in public service.
Okay, this is brilliant, Adil. What has been your proudest accomplishment or proudest moment so far?
Yep, so the biggest thing I'm proud of on a personal level is being able to, and you mentioned in the introduction as well, being able to become a police officer, but then also become a counselor. Politics and policing are something that I've always had an interest in. And it's not that I'm proud that I've achieved those things. I'm proud because I was able to achieve those things very young. And I think that's very important. I was 20 years old when I became a police officer. That's not that common. It doesn't happen.
For me, it's unheard of.
There you go. And at 22 years old, I got elected as the town councillor, being the youngest councillor ever to be elected in the town of Milton's history. Again, not common, doesn't happen often. But the reason why I'm very proud of that is because that's an example of what can be when young people stay on the right path, have good people around them, and have good values and a path to achieving what they want to achieve. They need to know what they want to achieve, As long as they have good people around them
Yeah.
and they stay committed and continue that hard work, regardless of what your age is, I'm a strong believer in that, regardless of what your age is, you will be successful and you will achieve whatever you want to achieve. Whether it's a career goal, a personal goal, whatever it may be. It can be done. Lots of people think that sometimes people are too young to make a difference, but
Yeah.
that's not true at all.
Yeah, you're never too young.
Yep.
All right.
So that's
Yeah.
on a personal level as well. And if you want to talk about council and policing, we can talk about that
Absolutely.
too. But,
I'll take
yep.
your word
Yep.
after a short break. We'll be taking a
Absolutely.
quick break.
Yep.
So we are exploring a story of the man who believes in 3 Ps, as I just discovered. He's a man of people, he is into policing, and he is into politics. So let's explore more of him after a short break. We'll be back. Welcome back to the journey with Ammar Sheikh, where we are unfolding and exploring Mr. Adil Khalqi, the man of 3 Ps I have rightly mentioned before going to the break. The man who is raising the bars high and breaking all the barriers, be it getting into policing in a young age, getting into volunteering at the tender age of 10, or being the youngest town council in the history of Milton. How are you, sir?
Excellent, still doing well. This is a great interview and conversation so far. Yeah.
Thank you. Adil, so what way do you see your career as a purpose of calling and not just as profession? I know you're, you are excelling in 2 different pathways, but how do you manage that?
Yeah, no, both of the things that I'm doing right now and everything I've done so far has been a part of who I am, and it's
Yeah.
a big part of my identity, So it comes down to public service, and it comes down to, the values that I have. I strongly believe that, everybody in this world has the ability to do good, and for me, what that looks like is I want to pursue and achieve whatever it may be that'll allow me to have the greatest impact in the lives of people and make people's lives better. That's my vision. That's my goal in anything that I do, and that's what's driven me to becoming both a police officer and a town councillor. What's next? I'm not sure, but wherever I can have that greatest impact, I will definitely pursue that opportunity.
Okay, excellent. And how do you define success in your own terms? Is it just the titles, or this is a word beyond that?
No, it has nothing to do with the titles or what job you're doing or what profession you're in. Success is unique to each individual person. It comes down to, have you achieved your sense of belonging? Have you achieved your purpose in life?
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable in whatever it is you're doing, the answer to that question is no, you have not. If you're always uncomfortable and you're always seeking new challenges, new opportunities, that's a measure of success. The moment you start becoming comfortable, you're not being successful, you're complacent towards what could be, if you continue working towards a different goal, a different challenge.
True.
The idea of having a growth mindset and ensuring that you're always pursuing more, personally, professionally, but for the greater good of the community, that's the measure of success. And I think everybody, especially young people, have the ability to do that.
Yeah. So Adil, you're pretty young and you have achieved so much. I'm so glad. I'm very happy for you. But how do you stay grounded while growing and getting all these accomplishments, along the way?
Yep, family is big. Family is very big. My father continues to be one of my biggest supporters. My wife is a very big supporter of mine and always keeps me humble, keeps me grounded, and keeps me in check to make sure that I'm balancing both of the very busy schedules I have with the fact that, I need to sometimes calm down a little bit and take a step back to recharge, relax. Because taking care of yourself is very important too.
Absolutely,
If you can't take care of yourself, especially in the roles that I'm in and anything to do with community service, you won't be able to look after others, right? So sometimes it's okay, and I need to get better at telling myself this, believe it or not. I need to sometimes take a step back, breathe a little bit, and take time and
recharge
a few days
and get
off
back.
and get back to the action. Yep.
No, for sure. Thank you so much for your answers. We are moving towards the second segment, which is the main foray or for the show, that these all accomplishments are there for yourself and you are doing great in life. But the main essence is how we are contributing to our people, how are we giving back to the society. So I'll just leave the floor for you to mention what activities are you involved in. Are there any particular projects you're working on, and how do you see that?
Yes, absolutely. And we're obviously now getting into almost coming into 2026, which will be year 4 of this term of council. Being elected back in 2022, this would be my first term on council, which is about to come to a wrap.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I'm proud of is the fact, and accomplishment as well for the community, is the fact that this term of council, and I played a huge role in that too, has helped shape and create a new strategic plan for the town of Milton. And that strategic plan is guided by a 5-year vision of where we want to be as a community over the next 30 years, right? So over the next 5 years, we've decided on this plan that we're going to make investments in various areas to build a community that everyone can be proud of. And that plan includes a vision of investing in people, innovating in technology and process, connected transit and mobility, quality facilities and amenities, and planned community growth. Each of those strategic principles are foundational towards the kind of community Milton is becoming as we continue to grow. We're at about 160,000 people in the town of Milton, growing to about 450,000 people in the next 25 years or so.
Growing massively.
Yes, and how we manage that growth and deliver the services that people need in this growing community while making sure we remain affordable as well, because largely all of these things are funded heavily through the property tax system. Balancing those things is very important, and I'm very proud that council has been able to establish a plan on what we need to do on a larger scale to deliver results that matter.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for all the contributions, and being a resident of Milton, I can vouch for so many things happening around. Adil, what's next for you? What's the next journey? What path are you taking in your coming years?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, like I said, we're coming to the end of the term of this council. The next election municipally is going to be in October 2026, and I do plan on running for re-election for the current position that I have. And I'm very proud of the work that I've been able to work alongside my colleagues to deliver for Ward 3, but all of Milton as a whole. And there's so much more work to do. I am so optimistic about the future of the town of Milton. We have a community that is vibrant, diverse, has so many amazing small businesses and other businesses that create good local jobs, that create a sense of belonging for people in our community. And we have lots of young people and families with young children who are counting on us on council to make sure we deliver a community that those kids can grow up and have good jobs and have good post-secondary schools and other items and amenities, and so that they can be proud of the community that they're living in. I want to be part of those solutions, meet those challenges head on, and deliver results that matter to the community. So I'm excited about that, and that will be what's next in that sense.
Excellent, and good luck with that. And I hope you come back with your term you use for a greater good, and be an active and positive participant for that. Adil, we'll just make it an easy go for you before I request you for a message for the viewers. What message do you want to give to a younger Adil?
A younger version of myself, let's see here. I think I'm going to say that, and we briefly touched on it, enjoy childhood a little bit more. When you're so hyper-focused on the fact that you want to be successful, you want to achieve your career, you want to achieve all these wonderful things, you kind of lose sight about the fact that you're not going to get the time back, right? So you're not going to get your younger years back, you're not going to get your childhood back ever. So being able to, explore your childhood a bit more and, do things that children can do in a greater capacity rather than being hyper-focused on those long-term goals is important. And I think going back, I would definitely allow myself to,
take it easy,
relax a little bit more. Yes, exactly, and take it easy. So.
No, perfect. And I mean, that's such rightly said that you were so much focused about getting into somewhere where you are. So it really requires some passion, some push for that. Adil, how do you want to be remembered?
That's a really tough question, because I still have so much more to give, and I haven't thought about what would it be like to, be remembered as. But you know what? I think looking at the future and thinking about the future and thinking about even now, I think I want to be remembered as somebody who did their best to help make people's lives better.
Yeah.
And in whatever capacity that is today, in today's climate that we're in, or in 10, 20 years from now, I just want to do good, be good at what I do, and whatever decisions I make, I want to make decisions that are going to change people's lives for the better and ensure that everyone has the ability to raise a family, to achieve success, and to live the dreams that they want to live. And I don't want things like, I want to create a society and help be part of that society where we don't see race, religion, age, or any other barrier as a barrier for somebody's potential to be achieved. If I can help create those conditions for people through whatever capacity I may be in 10, 20 years from now, that's my goal.
Excellent. That is so thought-provoking. Thank you so much for the answers. Adil, I would just request you to give a brief message to our viewers and listeners on this camera, please.
Sure. Well, thank you to everyone who has tuned in today to watch, and it's very important that we have conversations like these so that we can, learn from each other, but also, empower each other in our community to do what's good for the community and do what's good for society and achieve their true potential. One key message I want to deliver is for young people. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, young people have so much potential. Don't let your age be a barrier in achieving success. That's my key message. Work hard, learn, have good people around you, make good choices, and you will be successful. I can guarantee it. Thanks, Ammar.
Thank you so much, Adil. Thank you for being on the show. It was such a pleasure hosting you today, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation too.
Thank you, Ammar.
Thank you. Perfect. As we wrap up today's conversation, Adil's journey reminds us of something deeply important. Service is not something you wait for permission to begin. From a young volunteer at the age of 10 to a police officer, from a community advocate to the youngest town councillor, Adil's story proved that leadership is not about how old you are, but how deeply you care about people. In a world where many wait for the right time, as he mentioned, Adil chose to act. He chose responsibility over comfort, service over spotlight, and purpose over popularity. If you're watching this, so this is a reminder for you that whether you're too young, too new, or too unheard to make a difference, let this be a reminder. On that wonderful note, I'll be signing off, your host for the show, The Journey with Ammar Sheikh, with the reminder that keep inspiring, keep enjoying the life, keep spreading the positivity, because your journey has just begun. We'll be coming back with another episode with another amazing guest on The Journey with Ammar Sheikh. Till then, take care.